My husband tried to take my life and make it appear as though I had done it myself. To survive, I staged my death and vanished. My name is Amber, and I'm standing in the parking lot of a grocery store in a town 300 miles away from my former home, facing a man I never expected to see again. My hands shake so badly that I drop my keys. They hit the ground with a sharp, metallic sound that feels amplified. Everything feels loud. The traffic on the nearby highway, my heartbeat, and his voice saying, "Amber, please, just listen to me." I should run. Every instinct tells me to get away, but my legs refuse to move. I'm frozen, staring at Marcus, my husband, ex-husband, or whatever he is now. My mind goes back to the last time I saw him, the night he pushed me toward the edge of our balcony and said it would all be over soon. That was 3 years ago. "How did you find me?" I ask, barely audible. He steps closer. He looks older now, with new lines around his eyes and gray at his temples. "It took a long time, but I had to find you," he says. "The kids." I raise my hand. "Don't talk about them." He continues. "They miss you. Emma is asking about you every day. Tyler drew a picture of you last week and hung it on his wall." Hearing their names hurts deeply. Emma is 8 now. Tyler is 6. I left when Emma was 5 and Tyler was 3. I missed birthdays, school milestones, lost teeth, and bedtime routines. I left because I wanted to live long enough to be there for them someday, even if I couldn't be present then. Let me explain how this began, because I know what you might be thinking. People don't fake their deaths and leave their children unless something truly terrible happened. And that's true. Marcus and I met in college. He was confident and successful, the type who commanded attention. I was a psychology student, and he was completing his MBA. We married 2 years after graduating. For a while, life was good. He took me out, surprised me with gifts, and praised me constantly. Our families adored each other, and everyone saw us as the perfect couple. Things changed after Emma was born. Marcus became controlling. He wanted constant updates on where I was, who I spoke to, and how money was spent. He insisted we merge finances and close my personal account, saying marriage meant sharing everything. At first, I thought it showed commitment. I told myself it was stress from becoming a parent. My friend Jessica noticed the changes first. She visited when Emma was 6 months old and saw Marcus scrolling through my phone. She said it wasn't normal. I dismissed her concern, convinced she was overreacting. I was exhausted and overwhelmed, and it felt easier to believe that explanation. By the time Tyler was born, Marcus had pushed most of my friends away. He told me Jessica was toxic and trying to ruin our marriage. I stopped answering her calls. Eventually, she stopped reaching out. My family lived in Arizona, but Marcus always had reasons why we couldn't visit or host them. Looking back, I see how deliberately he isolated me, but at the time, each excuse sounded reasonable. The physical abuse started subtly, a grip that lingered too long, a shove during arguments. Then it escalated. He always apologized afterward, blamed stress or blamed me. The first time he hit me hard was on Tyler's first birthday. I had planned a small party. Marcus came home angry, accusing me of embarrassing him. After everyone left and the kids were asleep, he struck me across the face. I tasted blood and stood there in shock. He said, "Look what you made me do." I should have left then, but I had no money, no job, and 2 young children. Marcus controlled everything. He had convinced me to stay home, saying it was best for the kids. He also began telling others that I was unstable and depressed, always presenting himself as the concerned husband. When he pushed me down the stairs, he told the hospital staff I had fallen. They believed him. Eventually, I began planning my escape in secret. I opened a separate bank account and moved small amounts of money. I contacted a domestic violence hotline and packed an emergency bag. I hid it carefully, but not carefully enough. One night, Marcus came home drunk and angry. He confronted me about the account and the bag. He dragged me to our 8th-floor balcony and pressed me against the railing. That was when I realized he planned to kill me and frame it as suicide. He had already prepared the story. When Emma called out for me, his grip loosened. I pushed him away, grabbed the kids, and called the police. When they arrived, Marcus calmly told me I was having a mental health crisis. They believed him. They left without filing a report. That night, I knew I had to disappear. Legal options wouldn't protect me. Marcus had money, influence, and a narrative that painted me as unstable. If he gained custody, neither the kids nor I would be safe. I contacted Rachel, an old college friend who had escaped a similar situation. She warned me that leaving meant giving up contact with my children for years. I understood. Staying meant dying. We planned everything carefully. I recorded goodbye videos for Emma and Tyler, telling them how much I loved them and that none of this was their fault. Recording those messages nearly stopped me, but the memory of the balcony convinced me to continue. I told Marcus I needed a solo trip to clear my head. He agreed. I drove to Devil's Canyon State Park, left my belongings and a note, and staged the scene. I left my wedding ring and a scarf he had given me, then followed an unmarked trail to where Rachel was waiting. She took me to Millfield, Montana, where I started over as Claire Anderson. I rented a room from an elderly woman named Dorothy and worked at a diner. I stayed busy to avoid thinking, but eventually I checked the news. I saw my face labeled missing, presumed dead. Marcus gave interviews and profited from my supposed death. I stayed hidden. The months that followed were empty and quiet. Dorothy showed kindness in small ways. Rachel checked in on me through burner phones. 6 months later, Rachel told me there was a way to get the videos to my children, but I chose to wait. They were too young to understand. Over time, I built a routine. I managed the diner, volunteered locally, and sent money anonymously to a trust fund for Emma and Tyler. I wrote them letters I couldn't send, keeping them in a box under my bed. Marcus became a public figure, speaking about mental health and profiting from my supposed death. I stayed hidden. 3 years later, a private investigator came into the diner. He said I looked familiar. Rachel later confirmed Marcus had hired investigators. I could run again, or I could confront the truth. I wasn't ready. I returned to work and tried to stay unnoticed. 2 days later, the investigator came back.
This time, he had a photograph with him. "Do you recognize this woman?" he asked, holding up a picture of me taken 5 years earlier. "No," I said, "I don't think so." "Her name was Amber Mitchell," he said, carefully watching my reaction. "She died 3 years ago, or at least that's what people believe." I kept my expression steady. "I'm sorry, I don't know her." "The thing is," he continued, "I've been doing this work for 20 years. I'm good at recognizing faces, even when people change their hair, their style, or their weight." He tapped the photo. "I think you're her. I think you're Amber Mitchell." My heart was racing, but I forced myself to stay calm. "You have me mistaken for someone else." "Maybe, or maybe not. Here's the situation, Miss Anderson, or should I say Miss Mitchell. Your husband hired me. He says he wants closure. He wants to know what really happened." "I'm not who you think I am," I said firmly, "and I need you to leave." He stood up. "Fair enough, but he's not going to stop. He's determined to get answers. It might be easier for everyone if you talk to him." After he left, I ended my shift early, told my boss I wasn't feeling well, and went home to pack. But I didn't know where I could go next. How many times could I keep running? I sat on my bed, surrounded by the few things I owned, when Dorothy knocked. "Claire, may I come in?" I opened the door. She took one look at me and sat down beside me. "Tell me what's going on," she said. For reasons I still can't fully explain, I told her everything. My real name, Marcus, the abuse, the balcony, and how I escaped. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. I had a husband like that once, back in the 1950s, before women had real options. What happened? I asked. He died, a heart attack. I won't pretend I wasn't relieved. That doesn't make you a bad person, I said. It makes me human, she replied. Here's what I think. You can keep running and spend your life looking over your shoulder, or you can stand your ground. You're not the same woman you were 3 years ago. You're stronger now, and you have people who believe you. But if you keep hiding, your children will grow up without their mother. Is that what you want? I didn't have a clear answer. I was exhausted from fear and constant movement. That night, I decided I would stop running. The next morning, I followed my usual routine and went to the grocery store. That's when I saw Marcus standing in the parking lot next to my car, bringing me back to where this story began. "How did you find me?" I asked, trying to sound steady. "The investigator tracked you down," he said. "You covered your tracks well." "What do you want?" I asked. "I want you to come home," he said. "I've changed. I've been in therapy. The kids need their mother." "You tried to kill me," I said. "You were going to push me off a balcony." He replied smoothly, "I was in a bad place. I've spent 3 years working on myself. I'm not that person anymore." "I don't believe you." His expression shifted slightly. "Then believe this. If you don't come back, I'll tell everyone you're alive. I'll say you faked your death and abandoned your children. You'll be arrested, and I'll get full custody." He held up his phone, showing me he had recorded the conversation. "I need time," I said. "You have 24 hours. Meet me tomorrow at noon. Don't try to run." I drove to a motel outside town and paid cash. From the room phone, I called Rachel. She already knew. She told me they had followed her and that Marcus had been watching for weeks. "He's threatening to expose me," I said. Rachel paused, then said, "There may be another option. What if we expose him first?" She explained that Marcus had built his public image on my supposed death. I had evidence, the videos, records, medical reports, and proof that he threatened me instead of contacting police. The idea made sense, even though it carried risks. By morning, I decided not to meet Marcus. I decided to tell the truth. I contacted Jennifer Martinez, a journalist known for reporting on domestic violence. She was skeptical at first, but agreed to meet. I brought everything: videos, records, financial documents, and messages Marcus had sent me. I told her the full story. She warned me it would change my life permanently. I told her my life was already changed. Jennifer verified everything over the next 2 days. She spoke to Rachel, confirmed my hotline calls, obtained medical records, and found other women with similar experiences involving Marcus. Patterns emerged that showed long-term manipulation and abuse. Before airing the story, Jennifer gave me one last chance to withdraw. I declined. The segment aired during prime time. It included my interview, recordings of Marcus threatening me, and statements from other women. The response was immediate and intense. Public opinion was divided, but the evidence was clear. Marcus denied everything, claiming I was unstable. However, the recordings undermined his claims. His foundation was investigated, his employer placed him on leave, and donations were scrutinized. I cooperated with authorities and hired a lawyer. I turned myself in and faced charges related to filing a false report and insurance fraud. Given the documented abuse and circumstances, I received probation and community service. Marcus was later arrested for extortion based on the recorded threats. His reputation collapsed, and his foundation shut down. Emma and Tyler were temporarily placed with my parents while custody decisions were reviewed. The legal process took months. Child Protective Services investigated thoroughly. Therapists testified that reconnecting with me would benefit the children. Eventually, my criminal case concluded without jail time. The judge acknowledged that while my actions were illegal, the system had failed to protect me.
Women in situations like mine often feel trapped, as if there are no real choices. I hope that by sharing this experience, other women might see safer, better options ahead. I cry with relief. I had prepared myself for the possibility of prison. Marcus, however, is not as fortunate.
He is convicted of extortion and blackmail and faces additional civil lawsuits from donors who gave money to his foundation under false claims. He receives a 3-year prison sentence and is ordered to repay the funds he misused. The most critical decision concerns custody. CPS completes its investigation and recommends that Emma and Tyler be placed with me, with support from my parents. The report states that while I made a desperate decision, it was driven by fear for my safety. It also notes my cooperation throughout the process, my attendance at all required therapy sessions, and my ability to provide a stable, secure home. Marcus challenges the decision from prison. His attorney claims that I abandoned the children and that I am unfit, arguing he should retain custody rights. The court rejects this argument. Based on a documented pattern of abuse and the ongoing risk he poses, the court terminates Marcus's parental rights. 6 months after my story becomes public, Emma and Tyler come home. I move into a small house in a Denver suburb, close to my parents, who relocate from Arizona to help during the transition. Dorothy moves as well, renting the basement apartment and assisting with childcare while I work. Rachel is there when the children arrive, along with my parents and Dorothy. A social worker brings them. Emma is 8, nearly 9. She is tall and has my eyes. Tyler is 6 and strongly resembles Marcus, which is painful to see, though he has my smile. Both children appear frightened. I kneeled to their level, careful not to overwhelm them. I introduce myself calmly, acknowledging how confusing and scary the situation must feel. Emma looks at me, her eyes red from crying. She asks if I am really their mother. I confirm that I am. Tyler asks why I left. I explain that I left to keep us safe, and that it was the only way I knew at the time. I tell them I never stopped loving them and thought about them every day. Emma says she believed I had died. I apologize sincerely for everything they endured. Both children begin to cry, and soon I am crying as well. The social worker gives us space. My parents stay back. Emma asks if she can hug me. I say yes, and both children embrace me. I hold them for the first time in 3.5 years, overwhelmed by both relief and grief. Later, my mother brings cookies and milk. The children are reserved at first, but she is patient. Dorothy shows them their rooms and lets them choose how to decorate. Emma selects purple walls and a bookshelf. Tyler chooses dinosaur-themed decor. That night, I tuck them in. Emma asks if I will leave again. I tell her no, but she reminds me that I promised before. I acknowledge that I broke that promise. I explain that while I cannot change the past, I can commit to honesty and consistency going forward. I tell her I will not leave again unless there is no other option, and that I will always tell the truth. She accepts this, though cautiously. Emma asks to watch the videos I recorded for them years earlier. We watch them together. In the recordings, I look younger and frightened, but my love is clear. When the video says I will never stop fighting to return, Emma tells me that I did come back. I confirm that I did, and that I am staying. Tyler asks where their father is. I explain carefully that Marcus is somewhere he needs to be, facing consequences for his actions. Emma asks if he hurt me. I answer honestly but simply, saying yes, and explain that leaving was necessary for safety. When Tyler asks if Marcus will return, I firmly state that he will not, and that the courts have ensured their safety. The adjustment period is difficult. Emma has nightmares. Tyler wets the bed. Both struggle at school. We attend individual and family therapy with Dr. Sandra Rodriguez, who explains that their reactions are normal given the trauma they experienced. She emphasizes that healing takes time and consistency is essential. I commit to showing up daily. I prepare their meals, help with homework, attend activities, read bedtime stories, and allow them space to express anger.
2 months after their return, Emma has an emotional outburst, accusing me of choosing to leave and claiming her father said I never loved them. I acknowledge her anger and firmly state that his words were untrue. I explain that love motivated my decision and that trust will take time to rebuild. Tyler's pain appears differently. He becomes destructive and withdrawn. One day he cuts up his new clothes to see if I will leave again. I sit beside him and reassure him that I am staying regardless of his behavior. I acknowledge my past mistake, but make it clear I am not leaving again. Eventually, he helps clean up without being asked. Gradually, progress follows. Emma begins sleeping through the night. Tyler's tantrums decrease. Emma's grades improve, and Tyler joins the soccer team. Difficult days remain, but positive ones become more frequent. I begin working as a counselor at a domestic violence shelter, helping other women plan for safety. Sharing my story helps them feel less alone. Rachel remains a constant presence. The children adore her and call her Aunt Rachel. Dorothy becomes like a grandmother to them. My parents stay involved, offering regular support. Marcus is released from prison early for good behavior. I receive a notification, but nothing follows. A week later, he sends a letter apologizing and formally relinquishing any remaining parental rights. My lawyer confirms this. I feel conflicted, skeptical, yet hopeful that he will not harm others. I do not share the letter with the children. Some information can wait. Later, Lisa, another woman affected by Marcus, tells me he is living quietly in Nevada. I am relieved, not for him, but for those he will not hurt. 2 years after the children return, Emma chooses me as the subject of a school project on personal heroes. She says I saved myself and then saved them. Her essay wins an award, and she dedicates it to me, stating that survival is only the beginning. The moment reflects how far we have come. Life settles into routine. Ice cream becomes our way of celebrating good moments. Tyler occasionally asks if I regret my decision. I tell him I regret the loss of time, but not choosing survival. Years pass. Emma is 17, Tyler 13. Emma excels academically and plans to study psychology, focusing on trauma and resilience. Tyler develops a love for cooking. They are happy, engaged, and grounded. Marcus later requests permission to write letters to the children. With professional guidance and their consent, we allow limited contact. Tyler occasionally responds. Emma does not. Both choices are respected. Emma later shares her desire to work with traumatized children and possibly write about her experiences. She chooses to attend the University of Denver so she can stay close to home. Rachel becomes engaged and asks me to be her maid of honor. Her wedding is intimate and meaningful. Emma and Tyler participate, and the event marks another chapter of healing and growth. As I look around at the people I love, I feel peace, not because life is perfect, but because it is stable and full. We still face challenges, but we face them together. This story doesn't truly end. It continues through everyday moments, future challenges, and ongoing growth. What matters is that we survived, we healed, and we built a life grounded in honesty, safety, and resilience. We are thriving, and we are not giving up on ourselves or on each other.